K-12 education. What we really should be thinking about is birth to 4 years old. You look across, especially in South Forsyth, you see Hindu temples, you see Jewish synagogues, you see a myriad of different opportunities for people to. I love to be able to hear some of the true core principles of the community.
Mr. Jones, my very first question is going to be about reducing the taxes. Well, I understand eliminating taxes is good for the public, but not so good for the state government. So explain to me how you're going to bring extra revenue because you're going to forego the tax part. So how do we do that?
Well, I made a commitment back in 2016 when I first ran for office to never raise your taxes. Right. And when you look at state and government primarily gets its monies from two sources. One is a state income tax, and the second one is 4% of your sales tax that you pay. So the focus has been primarily on the state income tax. Not sure if you're aware, but in 2018, the General Assembly was able to pass the largest state income tax cut in the history of the state, amounting to just over $5 billion going back to hardworking Georgians, and we're really proud of that. That reduced the top rate from 6% to 5.75%, and if everything goes well, down to 5.5%. My ultimate goal, though, is to reduce the state income tax down to zero. Okay. Because income tax by its very nature is a tax on productivity. A tax on productivity does not make sense to me as an entrepreneur and as a businessman. To me, I believe we need to drive that down to zero and then pick up what effectively is the fair tax proposal, which is a tax on consumption.
Sure. You are not a career politician, according to your website. So when someone says, I'm not a career politician, how do you think your voters and general public, when they are looking at that, take you as their future leader? Isn't that a little difficult for you to convince your voters to vote for you?
Actually, I think it's just the opposite, especially here in Forsyth County and North Fulton. The constituents that I speak to appreciate the fact that I'm one of them. I have started businesses, I've built businesses. Knock on wood, I've been more successful than the average guy. I've definitely had failures. I'm the first one to admit that. I wish my life was just run with 51 straight years of success, but that's just not the case. I've learned more from my failures than from my successes. And frankly, I take that entire tapestry, that entire life work, and I'm bringing it to the State House. And I'm really proud of that. And I think the feedback that I get from my constituents, who are my voters, is, Todd, go down there, go down to Atlanta and talk about the things that pragmatic business people talk about. We talk about things like, what's our vision? Where are we going in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? What can we do to be able to help Georgians? And I don't just mean Georgians at this economic level or this economic level, but all 10.3 million Georgians. We have to be able to create an economy that basically allows all boats to rise with a rising tide. We have to create a healthcare system that allows everyone to be, quote, given that opportunity to get the healthcare that they need to be healthy, to be able to come back to their family. We need to be able to create an educational system that isn't necessarily because of birthright, but rather because of the opportunities that we'll give to all Georgians.
Absolutely. So economic development, healthcare, education, all these are definitely tying up to overall economic development. I understand your experience is going to help us a lot as a Forsyth County citizen or a citizen of the state of Georgia. It's going to help me. My question, or part B of my question is, when you say that I'm going to serve you for a certain period of time and I'm not going to be a politician in the future, how will that sound to public?
Well, to the public, if you ask literally a vast majority of constituents, and that means at the state level, county level, or even the national level, the support for term limits is overwhelming. It's one of the few places where Democrats, Republicans, independents agree. We don't need people serving in the same position for 20, 30, 40 years. Our founding fathers had the whole concept of a republic, of a representative government. I do not believe they envisioned this idea that someone would start in elected office in the same position at, say, 30 or 35 and literally retire at 70. That just is not what we're about. So when I say I put voluntary term limits on myself, that means within this particular position, I've promised not to serve more than 8 years. And I basically tab that against the term limits of the president and also the governor. Well, right now, I have the best of both worlds. I'm able to work in the real world, as they call it, and I'm also able to serve my constituents. This General Assembly of the State House and the State Senate is set up to be a part-time, call it, advocacy job. It's not part-time, I'll tell you that, but I love it. It's a huge passion for me, but I do keep my fingers very clearly inside of what I'll call the real world, and then also inside of my representative job. In terms of where I go after this, right now I'm focused as much as I can be on the task at hand, which is ensuring that our economy becomes not necessarily better, but also a little bit decoupled from the federal economy. I want Georgia to be able to become not just the number one place to do business in the country, but the most innovative place to do business in the country. I want us to be where healthcare is not just something that people in Metro Atlanta get, but also around the entire state, in the mountain areas, the coastal areas, the rural areas. And I definitely, absolutely, when we think of education, we want to give access to all. We don't want a child who's down in the rural part of Georgia to not be able to get into Georgia Tech because they didn't have the ability, or how about this, the access to physics, to calculus, etc. So we need to be able to solve that, and those are the things that I'm focused on right now.
Beautiful. And I see that you are heading a lot of different committees. They have assigned you economic development, tourism, industry, labor committees, budget, physical affairs, a lot of different things. So just explain to me how these departments are doing, how those committees are really doing, have they progressed, and where are we with those?
Sure. So I'll start, with industry and with industry and labor, an absolutely key one, right? Because if you think about it, we're talking about how it is that business within the state runs. Right. We're talking about how it is that we're going to treat employees. Mm-hmm. So without a doubt, that committee, to me, is the absolute balancing act between making sure that employers and employees have what they need in order to be successful. So do the employers have the regulation, or how about this, lesser regulation, so that they can use their entrepreneurial spirit to be able to be successful in not just the state of Georgia, but in the Southeast, in the country, and hopefully around the world. Employees, are we working with them to ensure that they have the protections that they need? Do they have the access to additional certifications? A lot of people don't know, but we recently funded 17 different certifications within the Georgia technical schools that you can get for free. We're talking HVAC, we're talking plumbing, we're talking welding, we're talking CNC finishing, computer programming, etc. These are the things that we want to be able to provide to these employees so that they can increase their skill set.
Absolutely correct. So here is a sensitive question I've got. Religious freedom is one of the issues that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. So let me ask this very straight, without mincing words. So religious freedom in your constituency, how far you are able to accomplish with so much of immigration happening, so much of influx of different, diverse population coming in? Were you able to really see that everybody has that freedom that you had in your mind?
Sure. Look, when we think of religious freedom, we're talking about something that's core. Right. It's core to family. It's core to our country. Mm-hmm. Our founders, they put as what? The very first amendment of the Bill of Rights. Right. And that talks to freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. Right. So that's key. But I will tell you this, when I moved here to Forsyth County just 11, 12 years ago, it was basically Christian churches and Catholic churches. That's what it was. Right. Now look, when you look across, especially in South Forsyth, you see Hindu temples, you see Jewish synagogues, you see a myriad of different opportunities for people to exercise their faith that didn't even exist a decade ago. To me, diversity comes in so many different ways, and faith is one of them. And I think here in South Forsyth and North Fulton, I think that has been embraced. And I think it will continue to be embraced.
Close at home, your constituency is District 25.
Correct.
That's what I understand. And you're a part of Forsyth County. You live here, and you've been here for the last, 12, 13 years. Now, what has been your contribution at various different levels, as a politician, as a citizen, whichever way you can? So what have you done so far? This is important for my viewers. Sure. And okay, what has he done? Why should I vote for him? So this will help both of us.
Look, first and foremost, get involved. That's exactly what we did when we moved here. We had 4 children, 10, 7, 5, and 3. And the very first thing we did was obviously, we went out, we scouted the schools, and then as soon as the children went into the schools, my wife became a member of the PTA. I went and basically rounded up some guys to basically create the Dad's Club of Shiloh Point Elementary School. This is all about just rolling up your sleeves and getting engaged. You don't need to be elected. You don't even need to be appointed. It means going to the principal. For us, it meant going to the principal and saying, what can we do to serve you? And exactly. And we found out through my wife, she was able to get involved in the PTA and then eventually the local school council. I was able to get involved and be one of the founders of the Shiloh Point Dad's Club. We then created and built an amazing courtyard for the children there. And that just kept going on in terms of touchdown clubs, in terms of the touchdown clubs at Piney Grove, the touchdown clubs at South Forsyth High School. Again, it's all about, if you have, I'll say that itch, if you have that willingness, I absolutely encourage you, get involved. Getting involved because we're talking about giving back to the community. And at the end of the day, we really define ourselves by what type of citizens we are. The second thing is you get to expand, in a sense, the people you meet. I was able to meet so many different people. I mean, different races, different nationalities, different faiths. And I loved it. I loved learning about the county, and I learned a lot about the history too.
Absolutely. Now, coming to the volunteering, how do you find the Forsyth County citizens coming forward to volunteer most of the public events? Do they do enough, or do we still need more and more volunteering from different communities? Not just the old school, I'm talking about the new communities which are coming in. Do you see people like me, people who look like me? Are we doing enough volunteering? Do you see them? You can be frank, there's nothing.
I'm going to be frank. No one is doing enough. That includes me too.
Absolutely.
I think the challenge we have in Forsyth County and North Fulton is too many times we hear, oh, we have the highest median income, we have the highest net worth, we have the best education systems, etc. So you're sitting there thinking, oh, we're number one at nearly everything. Well, I guess really I don't need to kind of help. Well, you know what? You couldn't be more wrong. The fact of the matter is staying on top of the hill is actually harder than climbing up the hill to become number one. So I would tell you, there are amazing organizations in this county and in Fulton County that if you have a passion for just about anything, have a passion for children, it's there. Have a passion for helping the elderly, it's there. The homeless, it's there. The people who are in need of food, it's there. In other words, if you want, you can absolutely find a way to direct your energies. And if you can't, please give me a phone call, give me a text. I'm happy to help you out in any way, shape, or form.
So I've got one more question in this segment. Now, there's so much of population of Indian Americans coming into Forsyth County. They're moving from Gwinnett County, Cobb County, wherever it is. I am one of those, actually. I came in 4 years ago.
Okay.
So I moved from Gwinnett County.
Okay.
We both know why people are coming here, because of the technology hub. Right, a lot of different technology companies. And number two, we have got a city here coming as well as Suwannee, one of the best cities in the country. They were voted as one of the best in 2013. Right? Yeah. Now, is county government, you just share me whatever knowledge that you have about the county government, are they able to cater enough infrastructure to meet the needs of this growth? For example, expanding the 400 corridor and widening the roads, expanding the schools, having new schools. Do you think they're doing enough, or do we still need to do some more?
I think even if you ask them, they would say they're doing a lot, but we need to do more. And I do ask them, by the way. I asked the Board of Education, I asked the Board of Commissioners, and you have a group of people there, 5 on the BOE and 5 on the BOC here in Forsyth. I asked that same question of North Fulton, and I represent Johns Creek there. I talk to Mayor Bacher, I speak to the City Council, I speak to the county government and also the county Board of Ed. And I will tell you across the board, everyone is struggling with that same balance. How do you continue to welcome people in, continue to foster that growth, yet at the same time, make sure the infrastructure is there? There is no doubt that that is a challenge. And at that point, you start to say to yourself, how is it that you do balance that? Because you want to continue to be a low tax municipality, a low tax county. And how do you balance that? And also at the same time, be able to meet the infrastructure needs. It's a delicate balance. And again, I can't speak for them, but I think they would tell you, we're doing stuff, but we could be doing more.
Here is here.
All right.
I'm eavesdropping.
Okay. Good. How do people address you actually? Representative Jones or?
Yeah. Yeah. But you can call me Todd.
Todd, okay. Is that okay?
Of course. Yeah, please.
Well, Todd, I have researched a lot before coming here. And I say a lot, okay. I did enough research. And it appears you've got a lot of educational background, good educational background, and you worked for Fortune 500 companies and different industrial sectors too, and gained a lot of experience. I'm sure it's really helping you a lot in leading your constituency. I want to know how much of that experience and education you've been applying to your job at the moment, and you saw the direct results. For example, you are a project leader or a project manager in one of the companies, and then you're coming here and then trying to apply the same.
Sure.
So I want to know a little bit about that part.
Sure. I think the biggest thing that I bring to state government, frankly, is the possibility of yes. So many times, may it be with folks who've been in elected office for decades, or may it be folks who frankly have been in appointed or just hired roles within state government, so many times it's, oh, we tried that before and it didn't work. Well, as we know, in the private sector, you always keep trying. You always basically find a different way to do it. So one of the first things that we talk about all the time is, how do we change transportation? How do we change education? How do we change healthcare? Well, you can't do it just assuming that we're just going to make the past better. You have to be able to, in a sense, blow up the model. And in so many ways, when we talk about transportation, so many times you hear at the Capitol, oh, we'll just go ahead and widen more roads and put more asphalt down. Look, I'm not against widening roads and putting more asphalt down, but shame on us if we're not looking outside. We're not looking outside to what can autonomous vehicles do for us? What can air taxis do for us? These are all things that, in my mind, are part of a diversified transportation portfolio over the next decade. When we think about K-12 education, what we really should be thinking about is birth to 4 years old. The fact of the matter is, there's an unfortunate correlation that exists here in Georgia and frankly around the world. And that's this. If I know, or if we know, the education level of the parents, we pretty much know what that child's vocabulary is going to be by around 4 years old and what that child's math skills are going to be around 4 years old. We have to find a way to blow that up. By no means should the children who are born into parents who have advanced education have somehow a leg up on that child who was born maybe into a single parent situation, and that single parent only has a high school diploma. How do we blow that model up? Then the $1 trillion that this country is putting into K-12 education on an annual basis will actually see a true return on investment. And then finally with healthcare. Too many times around our state, healthcare is really just basically a birthright. I'm born in Metro Atlanta, I'm not born in Metro Atlanta. There truly is a dichotomy here in Georgia, 10.3 million Georgians with about 5.5 in the Metro Atlanta area and about a little less than 5 outside, who fundamentally have a different healthcare. They have a different healthcare access. They have different healthcare opportunities. That's just not right. We have to find a way to equalize that. And frankly, it's my private sector experience that allows us, in my opinion, to look at areas that frankly others just don't. And that to me, I'll say the possibility of yes is what differentiates me and allows me to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Good. I mean, I got the answer what I wanted.
Okay.
Certainly. But coming to the beginning part of the question, I was talking about like, whatever you have done in some of the companies, like Fortune 500 companies, like for example, you came out with a very innovative and creative idea. Have you ever tried with the government and has it worked? Yes or no? I mean, you don't need to elaborate that. I was very curious about that.
Not yet.
Okay.
I've only had 2 years.
Okay.
You got to give me a little time. If there's one challenge that we have in state government, it's the culture. Think about this for a second. If an employee of a state entity, quote, goes for it, the same way that you would say in a company that's being incubated.
Right.
They go for it and they fail.
Right.
It's funny, in business we say, you know what? They did all the analysis, they took what was a measured response to that and they went for it and it failed. We would say, you know what? We learned something from
Absolutely.
it. How do we do it a different way?
Lessons learned.
In state government, they end up on the cover of the AJC and they basically get chastised. Well, all we do is discourage that state employee from taking a chance the next time. So to me, it's not yet, because until we shift the culture of the state government, we are probably going to be in this position that it will literally take years to chip down to be able to apply the real world into what I call state government.
Yeah. Now we are talking. This is
Okay.
what I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So the governments definitely take a pretty long time to listen to someone's innovative idea and then put it into practice. This happens to me. I deal with the government too.
Okay.
As a vendor. It takes a long time. Okay. Send what you have. Okay. We have a board meeting. We have a committee. We'll let you know. You know all the stories. So that's why it was so funny. It takes
Because
sometimes.
think about it. They don't have an incentive to go outside the box. They're not going to get a pay increase.
No.
They're not going to get a title increase. They don't have stock options, so suddenly their wealth isn't going to go up. So what is the incentive for them to go outside the box?
Exactly.
They have actually an incentive to stay inside the box. And for that, I feel horrible. And I speak to all the state employees who are looking at this. We should be able to incent you to do the right thing. We believe in you. We believe in your intellect. We believe in your experience. If you happen to go for it and it happens to not be the right decision, well, let's learn from it and let's find a different way.
I discuss the same thing in my company all the time. Like, okay, why is your paperwork stuck? Because there's no motivation for them to really approve it so quickly. I'm in the WIOA program.
Okay.
So we send out a candidate to them and ask them to approve that. It takes a couple of weeks, not months, couple of weeks. So this candidate keeps on asking me what happened. So I said, it takes some time. So it doesn't really come next day because they need to do your background. There's no motivation there. Anyway, here's one direct question for you, Tom. How do you like to win Indian American vote in the next upcoming elections?
First of all, transparency and honesty.
Okay.
I think it doesn't matter what your background is. If you know that your representative is being transparent and honest, I think we got at least half the battle right there, if not 3/4. I think the other thing is when I speak to the Indian Americans in my constituency and outside of my constituency, because I've been blessed, I get invited to several Indian American events in Gwinnett. I get invited to several events in DeKalb, in other parts of Fulton, etc. And I love it. I love to be able to hear some of the true core principles of the community. And when I hear things like fiscal conservative, individual liberties, accountability, these are the things I hear consistently from the Indian American community. And those are the things that I espouse to. Those are the things that I basically am going down to Atlanta and hammering on. Because I believe in the person. I believe in the individual a heck of a lot more than I believe in government.
Absolutely. Like coming to the Indian Americans, because we believe in family values.
Yes, you do.
Number 2 is education.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is definitely just, being a good citizen. We just don't go sideways. Okay, do what you need, what you are supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So, no nonsense in the public. So these 3 really put us ahead of most of the communities, as you know. And that's why when we invite representatives and congressmen like you, they come and they talk so much about Indian American community, saying that you're all accomplished people, and we feel so good because somebody is vouching for our success. That's really good. Now, few personal questions about your family and stuff. So you've got a big family, 4 kids, not easy. One itself is one kid, people are becoming busy. 2, busier. 3, it's very difficult. Now 4, I don't know how you're juggling your family, your work. Now we're talking about your politics or the government. How are you doing all this?
Lack of sleep. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, it is, when I think about where I'm at in my life, I had a passion to serve, and most of that came through all the volunteering I did. And I was lucky enough, and I didn't even know Volunteer of the Year existed in the Forsyth County school system. Well, I was named co-volunteer of the year for the Forsyth County school system. And I thought for a long time that was going to be just volunteering. And then I got a passion to serve. But one of the things I did was I said, I'm not going to run for office until my youngest was out of elementary school.
Right.
For those of you who are parents, you know that those elementary years, those are intimate years. Those are years that they're really kind of growing, and we wanted to, and my wife and I really wanted to be there and to be part of that experience. But then once they got out, for those of you who have teenagers, you know that they become a heck of a lot more independent. That doesn't mean I'm not there as a dad. It just means it isn't as hourly to hourly. It's more day to day and week to week. So I'm fortunate to be able to be in a business where I have supportive coworkers. I'm fortunate to have a wife who's an absolute life partner. I have children. They're not the perfect kids. I will absolutely say that, but they're good kids, and I appreciate what they do. And frankly, at this point, it's 7 days a week, but every day I wake up excited. So you know what? To me, that's not a sacrifice. That's service.
Absolutely. Okay. Do you want any of your kids to become a politician or a government servant?
Look, I'm going to sound a little hokey here. I want them to follow their passion. The one thing we talk about, though, are the Jones family rules. The Jones family rules include a lot of things, but one of them is I want you to be a giver and not a taker.
Okay.
So to me, if that means giving, and I don't just mean giving in terms of tithing at a church or maybe giving contributions to a charity, that means giving of yourself.
Absolutely.
So to me, I hope that as they grow up and they become independent and accountable adults, I hope as they basically build their family, one of the things that they are instituting is a pillar of I want to be a giver and not a taker.
Sriram, how are you? So
I'm doing good.
You know Todd for a long time, and you are the one who connected me to him.
Yes.
So tell me, in your own words, is he a nice person? I'm just kidding. Okay. So you tell me all about Todd as a person, as a politician, as a public servant, everything. I just want to know from you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I had the privilege of knowing Todd for more than a year. Not only knowing him, but also working with him on Sharon Springs Feasibility Committee. And that is when I came to know Todd much more than how we come to know outside. So not only as a person, but also as politician, but most importantly, I like him as a good leader. I feel really good that I'm in Todd's district because of his leadership skills, the way he conducts business, whether it is county business or outside. And definitely what I would like to do, not only for him but also for us in general Indian community, is bring him closer to Indian community. Not just because he's in business, he talks our language and he understands us very well, but because of his views on various things that we stand up for, and the coherence in our thinking and in our values. So that is why I hope that we can bring more people close to Todd, and I wish entire Indian community in the Forsyth County should know who Todd is, and Todd should know who we are even more.